everybody, it's me, Laura, the Eccentric Egg Lady, and today we're going to be doing my Hope egg designs, and I really hope you guys get it. Hope? Okay, we'll enjoy this one. I think it's a wonderful design, and I think I just really needed to do this one. So right here, I'm starting out where I always start out, which is on my journal or on my drawing pad. I like to sketch out my design if at all possible. Now, that being said, I don't always do that. I like to go sometimes right to the shell and just sketch it out. However, that being said, the nice thing about being able to sketch this out onto your drawing tablet is you have a sense of what this thing is going to look like in the end. You have a better idea. It's not just shooting off the hip. And also it pertains to what kind of eggshell you're using. So if I'm using a really big egg, I would like to sketch out the design ahead of time to figure out what fits and what doesn't, okay? That's why doing this on this big pad, it works. However, that being said, this is done on a chicken eggshell. So again, I would like to sketch it out anyway, because this way then I'd be able to say, okay, I like this design, but if it doesn't all fit, what do I keep and what don't I keep? And so this way you can make notes, you can add in your own touches to whatever you're doing in that regard. Now, here's a little something I want you guys to think about when you're going and doing something like this that involves like a word. I want you to go and look at the different books that are out there, or even, I don't know, maybe there's even some clip art on different alphabet fonts. So I'm using a very scriptive font here, but that does not necessarily mean you can't use another type of font when you're doing even cutting in eggshell. I had discovered, I thought, well, there's only probably one type of font I could use. That's not necessarily so. You really need to look at the font you're using and say, how can I work this onto eggshell? And I've been very surprised at how some of this works. I always thought scriptive type fonts would not work because they're all so closed. Well, it really depends upon how you carve them. And you'll see that as we get closer to the carving part. All right, so now I've brought in my ink pen, and you could tell I'm really going after defining up this design the way I have it. This is a fairly simple design for me, but I do this so I not only have a reference of what the design looks like, but let's say I put in some very intricate details. It's really nice to refer back to that every once in a while to know exactly what I did. Otherwise, you're kind of a little bit lost, right? I mean, you don't know unless you go back and look at it. Well, the other reason why I like to do this too is to give myself practice in drawing this design. Because when I go to do this on eggshell, I'm dealing with a three-dimensional surface, so it's really nice to give myself a little bit of practice before I apply this design to eggshell. Okay, so right here you see I've got my glove on, which I did not mention before. You really should have your cotton glove. And then my egg is all prepped with the base on it, and I've got my pencil in hand. Now we can go ahead and start sketching this design on the eggshell. So right here I am starting out with, I'm really doing my first, I should say, older design in creating the Hope design. I have two different designs I'm doing here, of course. And one is going to be more where the word is more backlit with the shell kind of representing the hope on it. And then the other one is going to be directly cutting out the word hope. So this is more the backlit version. I've done this one for many, many years. And this design is really based on where I draw an oval first, okay? And then I'm just going to write the word hope on the eggshell. Once I get the word hope on the egg, I then make pretty much almost like a frame of that line. And it will give me kind of like thicker, it'll be like a thicker print type of design. And then when we go to carve this thing will be where the oval part is more carved and the word itself will remain just the shell. And so it's more of a backlit kind of look on the word hope. Okay, so sketching my second design, I have the piece of paper here to kind of reference from, right? And I didn't do that with the first one, and part of it is because I've done it so many times. After a while, you're like going, okay, I know this one. This one, though, this new design, the second design, which really is new for me, is where I am doing more of a detailed scriptive font, and to me, it's just a more gorgeous design, just overall. And a lot of it too is because I'm using some thick and thin line. I am not going to make it all one type of blunt kind of font. It's going to be a little bit more of a delicate touch to it. And I like this particular design much, much more because in a lot of ways, this has a lot less possibility of it breaking. And a lot of it is because there are not as many cuts in this design as there was in the other one. Go figure, right? Less cuts, more delicate, and yet the other one were more cuts and not nearly as delicate of a font kind of a thing. Weird, right? At least in my brain it is. I don't know. Anyway, right here, I'm just going to go ahead and draw this one out. I'm going to let you guys watch my hands talk as I do so and just enjoy as I put this particular drawn design onto eggshell. Okay, so once more, I'm referencing my paper version of my design with my eggshell. And I want to mention here that not only can you go back and find out what kind of detail you put into this design on the paper version, but let's say I wanted to take this design and I wanted to add more detail into it. I could go on this page then and say, write down, okay, I want to put in a diamond or a triangular pattern. I can then reference this on my paper version. So, you know, if I wanted to add in other details, maybe I wanted to change it up and add more clay design to it, or whatever I'm thinking, I can always reference back to my drawn version here on paper and say, okay, this is what I had done before, or I want to add or subtract whatever it is. I'll even go on the back side of this page where I've drawn it and write out, okay, I want to add in color, I want to add in this, I want to take away that, maybe not. So you can do all sorts of things on the paper version that you can't do on the egg version. And let's say you go ahead and have the egg, but you break it or something. Guess what? You actually have the design drawn out or written out on paper, so you can always reference back to it. All right, now to everybody's favorite part and mine, yes, the cutting with the drill. So I'm taking that first design, the one where I had to really almost a block-like look when it came to the word, and we're going to go ahead and start carving really on one side of this. I'm going to start with the openings though, like so in my O, I'm going to carve that out first, and then I'll carve out the inner part on my E, and then I'll start on the one side and my P as well. And then I'll start on the one side of the egg right where the H is, and I'll start in one corner and just start creating and cutting out little random openings in the oval area of this hope design. All right, so now we're going to bring in the second design and we're going to start carving it. And this, I just love doing this particular this particular carve. It's just so much fun. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to come in and I'm going to use a little bit of that random cut design on the wider areas on the H. And then I'm also going to just come in with a line like I'm doing right here and cutting that separately. Now I started there first, and the reason is because if I start there later, there is more likelihood that the eggshell design could break. So I like to start with my more detailed areas with a line first, and then come in with my more block pattern later. So right here where I'm bringing in the line, that's fine because there's nothing else that's going to be carved around it. But when I started out with the H there, I knew I was going to have to come in with a block pattern on either side of where that line was. So it's almost better to start on that first. But again, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys watch my hands talk, or better yet, my drill in this case, as I carve out this design. I want you all to know that when I'm doing this, I have slowed down my film in this particular section so you can see in real time how I am doing this. Most of the time I like to speed up my film to get through because it does take such time. But in this case, I wanted to really show you what I kind of go through when I carve out these designs. Okay, it's now time to go ahead and clean out our eggshell designs, and I'm using bleach right here. I'm pouring it into my containers. These are some Ziploc type containers I bought a while back, and they have lids to them. You can buy them in your grocery store, no problem. And I'm going to show here the two eggs. Now, one is cleaned out and the other one isn't. And you can really tell because the one on the right has got that yellow look on it. This one, of course, on the left has been cleaned out, so I don't have to put it in the bleach. We're going to go ahead and clean out that inner, the inner lining on it. And on that other egg, I had pencil design, so I need to clean it, and I've got a little bit of Comet on my finger. Now, I probably should have, like I show right here with my gloves on, that's how you should have it. Okay, I'm taking it over to my sink, and yes, right here I'm bringing in that Comet and I'm going right over the pencil mark area. I find it's easier to do it this way than even with a toothbrush. I've used a toothbrush before and it will work at times, but most of the time I just like to use my finger. All right, so right here I've got my egg, and you could tell I've already got a topper on it. I used a little ball of my white Sculpey Original clay, and I sunk a little piece of my 22 gauge or 26 gauge, depends on how you look at it, wire into that ball, baked it up, and then glued it down with super glue to the top of my shell. So right here I'm adding in glitter to my first design. This is how I usually do it. I'll just go ahead and put super glue right over the top of the word there, and then once I have that, I'll just go ahead and shake a little bit of glitter on there and then just dust that off, and then I'll have my word all glitterized, which is kind of a nice way of doing this. Okay, now moving on to our next design. Right here, I just decided I'd show you how I made the hanger. I took a little bit of my wire, I twist it up, I make that ball. I go ahead and sometimes I'll even do a little bit of super glue right on the top of that ball, which has not been baked, and I'll sink it in. Otherwise, I just kind of sink it in. See right there, there's my glue. Can't seem to get away from my super glue. And then sink it in. I'll put that on a little tile and bake it, and then I'll apply it to my eggshell design. All right, so this is the result in creating my Cut Hope eggshell designs. Please use this for study and reference. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. I'm always wondering what you're thinking. Otherwise, I am sending out my biggest hugs to each and every one of you, and I hope you have an ecstatic, eccentric day.